Morning. Haven't picked up this camera for a couple of days. Been in the wormhole writing, especially this weekend. Probably sat here for 15 plus hours, getting the rest of this novel written. For those of you new to the channel, I'm not a professional writer, but I am writing a novel, fiction novel, which is located in Maine. A few weeks ago, I went up north to Moosehead Lake, drove up to Cacagio, just trying to put myself in the environment I'm writing about. And it's a story between Maine and Manhattan, kind of a love story. It's a thriller. Anyways, I finally submitted the manuscript yesterday. At least it was 90% done to a literary agent, and I'm waiting for them to read it and get back to me. But I've been doing so much research on just basically Civil War through current, I guess, through the 90s, the 1990s, which is this takes place. This takes place in like the 1970 to 1991, let's say, this timeline for this novel. And I'm not going to give any good business advice this morning. I'm just talking historicals and writing, and it's been a lot of fun. This process. It's like 70 over 71, 72,000 words right now. I'll probably push it to 80,000, 85,000 words. But so much rich history in Maine and New England, going back all the way to really the Penobscot Nation, First Nation here, and colonization, and even the native tribe had soldiers fighting in the Maine infantry during the Civil War. The 20th Maine Infantry, they basically helped win the Battle of Gettysburg. I mean, they basically did win the Battle of Gettysburg. Some of those soldiers that came back to Maine, they weren't getting paid. We just didn't have the funds, and so they carved out like swaths of land around the lakes. Like there's a lake behind me that my family and my wife's family, we own some land on this lake. It's like a mile as the crow flies out the back door. And it's like 75 feet, but it stretches back in a strip. And so the land on all these lakes that were given out, basically as payment, they're like long strips. Anyways, in my novel, I'm writing about this strip of land. It's actually 1,000 acres that this family owns since the Civil War, and they use it for trapping, and in this whole history around the factories and paper land, and the tanneries, and how the rivers used to really run brown with chemicals. I mean, back in the day, I was just trying to put myself in the shoes of a Penobscot native, let's say, the Penobscot Nation, I should say. There were different tribes within that, about what they must have felt, seeing basically like their land taking stripped and then used, and and trying to put myself in their shoes, or from their viewpoint, to write about it effectively. And when I do this as an amateur writer, it you have to put like your soul into it. You have to like feel like you're there through their eyes and their shoes, and it's pretty wild. It's really eye opening. A lot of the white soldiers that came back after the Civil War did get paid, but a lot of the natives did not. They fought in the Civil War. Even some of them fought in the Battle of Gettysburg, but they a lot of them didn't get a whole lot, coming out of the Civil War, which is crazy to think about. anyways, I'm trying to tie all this together and basically talking about the taking and stripping of land and runaway and what has led to, let's say, predatory capitalism in America, and then what then stripped the jobs in the factories, and then the tannery shut down. It's like this constant, and if you put your finger on the constant, and that's what I'm trying to do, because this book is like I said, it's a it's a forced proximity thriller, like romance, but there's a lot of deep-seated like trauma in it, having to do with you know people trying to find upward trajectory in Maine through work, living off the land, also meaning and purpose, and then the pressures of let's say like New York City, Wall Street, how it affects small towns. And of course, a lot of this is written from kind of a place of when I lost everything, living in a small town, with a population of 700 people, and and it having such an impact on my life. And so, a lot of writing comes from experience, except I'm tying it into these different characters, and it's a wonderful exercise, and also therapeutic. It's super therapeutic to write like this. Also, a lot of these a lot of these kind of things that happened were just overlooked. I shouldn't say things that happened. A lot of the instances of the Penobscot Nation settling back on their lands was overlooked because they were contributing economically. They were great at scouting, at trapping, furs. They were working for the landowners at this point, the timberland owners, Great Northern Paper and others, and they were also guiding folks who wanted to come up and hunt, and they would build cabins on public land and or paper land, and it was just kind of overlooked because they were contributing to society. And of course, from their perspective, it was always their land, right? So it was obviously stripped, kind of like what we're going through today, right? There's also the folks working in America that legally aren't supposed to be here, and it's kind of overlooked, and they're contributing to society. I mean, we have migrant workers that come up into Maine all the time that will do a lot of the jobs, a lot of the laborious jobs. I remember raking blueberries as a young kid. A lot of my friends who grew up in the county, they picked potatoes. They'd get out of the school, high school or junior high every year for a week to pick potatoes. Those were like the two things that we did in Maine: rake blueberries, pick potatoes. And a lot of migrant workers now doing those things. And I'm trying to make sense of it all. I'm just trying to make sense of it all because we seem to repeat things. Like the cycle is seems to be continuous. And I'm trying to go backwards in a way, but in a better way. Not backwards to taking from the land or destroying the land or creating pollution or causing pollution, but understanding how you can leverage the resources to build better product that lasts longer, that won't end up in a landfill. Also, the strip mining of the middle class the strip mining of purpose of the middle class and how to deliver that back while doing it differently and in a better way, knowing that you're not going to solve all the problems. That's a big thing. Like, you're not going to solve all the problems. And I'm working through a lot of these issues in this book. Oddly enough, they're threaded through this novel, and what it comes down to is the brush. Like, the pen is mightier than the sword. Like, the brush as a weapon versus the sword. Using a warrior's mind instead of a warrior's hands, and then finding some commonality between what we know and what we don't know, with the idea that for something to live, something else has to die. Not everybody can win. And so there's a lot of depth in this thing. And if a literary agent ever picks it up, it might get published. If not, it might never get published. Anyways, if you're a writer, let me know. I'd love some feedback, or a literary agent, or a publisher or something. Would love some feedback on this. But anyways, I'm working through all this stuff, and I want it to be historically accurate. And I don't want to, although it's fiction and storytelling, there's just so much truth and trauma that is threaded throughout it, and I want to make sure I'm clear and concise on all of that, so it's believable, because it should be believable. Anyways, that's what I'm up to this weekend. Like I said, haven't picked this camera up for a few days. Like I told you 100+ days ago, like, I'm gonna try doing the vlog every day. Sometimes I miss a day here and there, but I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.